Okay, cool. We're on the same page. Awesome. Even just explaining that made me sad. Oh God, this is what she looks like, okay? What is this, Five Nights at Freddy's? This isn't gonna end well. History is a circle. You guys suck. You're horrible people. So nice of you to finally show up, you coward. Hello, friends and gamers. We are actually going to finish the second half of Rubuska's character story in Reverse 1999 today. I did take like a 10-minute break in between this video and the last one because, oh boy, is Rubuska's character story a literal gut punch. It is so sad. Oh my God, it's so sad. If you did not play this one and you're like just tuning into part 2, part 1 is already up, so I'll be referencing that quite a bit in this video. I don't know how much I'll actually explain it because I also, I'm recording this on New Year's Eve, if you couldn't tell, because that's the last day of Rubuska's character story. Yeah. Yeah. So I do have to be places later. So if this is a little on the shorter side, that's probably why, because I should probably think about leaving soon. I also don't want to cry. Almost cried a couple times last time, but I don't want to cry because I don't want to have like red crying eyes later while I'm out celebrating New Year's. So we are going to do stages 5 through 8 of A Shadow's Wait for Rubuska. I'm going to try really hard to get Rubuska to come home, where I think I'm at 45 or 46 pity right now for her, guaranteed on that 50-50 because I lost it. If I have to spend some money on my phone while I'm out later, I'll do it. I'm not opposed. But we're gonna finish A Shadow's Wait today and hopefully not cry. That's the goal. 3 goals: finish A Shadow's Wait, not cry, and get Rubuska to come home in one way or another. If I have to throw down like 10 bucks of polls, I might do it today. Listen, I need Rubuska for my Blood Tithe team, all right? If you're just tuning in and you haven't known what I've been doing and running, I've been running Bloom Party as a sustained support of my Blood Tithe team. It's not going well. I don't have another unit for this, but we're gonna get into it. Before we do that, well, this particular video is not sponsored. I am a partnered creator with Blue Epoch in Reverse 1999 and will be receiving compensation for this video. Also, a little side note, obviously Rubuska's character story is no longer available for you guys to play, but we are covering it. So at this point, I'm not concerned about spoilers or spoiling it or anything because you can't do it anymore. So if you're watching this video, there's a really good chance you didn't do it. All right, stage 5, what was lost is found. I don't think I'm gonna do a recap. If you don't know what happened in the last one, it was a gut punch. We're doing like a flashback, but like it's an exaggerated flashback because Rubuska's writing a letter that's like she's telling a story. So it's a little bit exaggerated, but also I don't think it's that exaggerated because already it's like really depressing. But it's basically, we're going through Rubuska's backstory of how her entire family died in the war. It's messed up. Again, I'll repeat it. I said it a lot last time, but whatever excuse you can come up with for carrying these things out, horrible. You're a horrible person. Just following orders is not an excuse. It's not a good reason. It's not a reason. Okay, cool. We're on the same page. Awesome. What was lost is found. And this being the name of the stage for what we're about to get into, oh God, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna really hurt. This is another minigame stage as well. Because basically, everyone's mourning in the cemetery together, and Rubuska uses her arcane skill with the shadows of the deceased, and they speak, they talk, they can talk to their loved ones, and the other people who lost people in this war want to speak one last time with their loved ones. And so that's what Rubuska is now going to help with. And even just explaining that made me sad. Okay. Rubuska is counting immediately. She takes on the burden, counting softly with a solemn expression. She says to call back souls that have strayed into the dark. I must understand them. And souls hide in shadows, so there must be enough light. Oh, she says when the moonlight hits their grave, they'll find their way back, but it's like, I don't get a minute of break here. We have another flashback in the flashback now. Oh, Rubuska's mother says you've inherited my skill with shadow. How wonderful. I did reference this last time, that I was assuming that Rubuska's mother could basically just call on shadows with her arcane skill, whatever. She didn't need to do anything. She just kind of could call on the shadows. And we don't know if Rubuska's father is also an arcanist and what his skill is, but I assumed in the last video that Rubuska must get like a combination of the skills from her parents, whereas her mother's skill is calling on shadows, and I'm assuming maybe her dad has something to do with music, so it for Rubuska, those two things combined, and that's her arcane skill. For the first time, the child reshapes her own shadow, turning it into a crooked circle. Rubuska says, I want to make animals too, because that's what her mom does mostly, to like do little shadow puppet plays for the kids. Rubuska's mother says, my dear Buska, we must begin with the simplest things first. A circle, a triangle, a table, a tree. Things that aren't living. The tree's living, but like it's not like a person. Under the candlelight, her little hands fumble at shadow shapes, painting with the darkness. She says, play with your flute, child. The first time I dwelt within your shadows, I did the same. Okay, so over time, she should be able to learn how to control and call on shadows without help, just like on her own. But she's still very young, and so she needs some sort of tool to do it. So it's the flute. Okay, so that's where the flute comes from. Rubuska's mother says, let them shift and leap with each note, so they might become what you love most. Oh, the little notes. Yeah, this is actually like correct notation, I think, as well. Musical notation. I'm not totally sure, but I'm pretty sure. The girl blows a note, then another. On the wall, shadows jolt to the broken melody, hopping with every sound. I think before I called it a recorder, it is just a flute. Rubuska's mother says, very good. And Rubuska laughs and says, this is so fun. That's Kolyo, so she names them now. She plays her melody, bending light and shadow, shaping all the things she loves most. Aww. So her shadows that she formed were all based around her family. Rubuska's mother says, do I really look like this? What happened to the scene? It got very, like, sharp. Okay, so now Rubuska's shadow mother is back and it's calling for Rubuska. Says to look at me. Do I look like this? Oh, God. Okay, so now we have horror movie shenanigans. Awesome, great. What? This is what she looks like, okay. The girl lifts her gaze. In the gentle yellow glow, her brow splits open, revealing a dark red hole seeping blood. Is she having a nightmare, or did she like overuse her arcane skill? I don't know. I wasn't expecting this. It's been 8 minutes. Her face twists, muscles contorting, jaw clattering open and shut like a machine as it presses close to Rubuska. What is this, Five Nights at Freddy's? Rubuska screams, understandable. I screamed a little bit there. It was a nightmare, all right? That was a nightmare, not a flashback. Part of it was flashback, but it was also a nightmare. Rubuska's now crying, that's understandable, that was freaky. Moonlight pours into the cemetery. She murmurs beneath its silver glow, walking past row upon row of bodies. And I do think that was a bit of like a manifestation of sorts of Rubuska's fear to be doing this and like calling on the deceased's shadows for other people, maybe. But they're already rotting. The living wander beside their dead, clinging to a new hope. The grieving mother is back. She asks, might I see my Milena tonight? And the mourning father says it's Penka's birthday. How is he feeling now? Oh, how I long to see him once more. The orphaned boy says, Grandpa, I found my sister. She's sleeping just like you, because he did reference how he didn't even know where his sister was before. And she's also passed on. The orphaned girl says, will my mom ever open her eyes again? I just want to hold her. No. The answer is no. Because it's so unfortunate, because everyone is grieving, right? As well as Rubuska, and she's agreed to do this deed, this kind deed for all these grieving people. But it almost seems like they're getting to a point of taking advantage of her and her arcane skill and not realizing that she is also still grieving, you know, like this is a burden on all of them. But the rest of like the other people who are getting this favor from Rubuska don't realize that it's like, you know, like they don't realize it. They're just as desperate as Rubuska was at first, but now it's a whole mess. But Rubuska has come to know the lives, passions, and memories left behind by the dead and their unfulfilled wishes. And she did say at the end of the last video, in order to call on their shadows, she has to know, I think, their hearts or something, so she needed to learn about them. Day and night, she practices her arcane skill, preparing to call these wandering souls into new shadowy bodies. Yeah, so that dream nightmare she had was sort of a manifestation of her fears going into this, probably. Just as she had done for her family, though. Yeah, because that's exactly what she did for her family. Rubuska says, I will summon their souls and wake them again. Why'd it get red? She climbs the tree. Though her hands and feet still tremble from weakness, she is light enough to pull herself up onto a branch. She takes a deep breath and plays her 7-holed flute underneath the moonlight. Did I click through something? No, I clicked through the art too quickly. There's Rubuska, though. Her shadow spreads out beneath her like an overflowing pool, flowing into the silent bodies and slowly standing them up. The poor thing. She deserves so much. All right, we are now restoring the shadows of the departed. A, B, C, and D. So there's 4. Oh my god. I'm just gonna assume this is the way we're doing it. Yeah, okay, that was shadow A. Then this one's shadow B. This is the grandfather. Yeah, so there's the head of the grandpa, and then there's, okay, we got that one. So this one's pretty simple. It's just a normal, this is probably the Milena, the daughter from the grieving mother. And then, oh wait, no, this is probably Milena. No, that the first shadow C was the sister of, what's the sister? I don't know who's who anymore. I think that's kind of part of the point though, is that I'm overwhelmed in trying to pinpoint who's who shadow wise, and obviously so is Rubuska. Like, she has to be. The grieving mother calls out to her daughter, and Shadow Milena calls to her mother. She says, "Why are you crying?" And the mother says, "Because you've come back, you've returned to me. You don't have to be afraid anymore." And I think it's going to take a minute for the rest of the other people who are grieving to realize, like, because I think it kind of is like a similar argument that you hear with like something that, like, an early argument for things like generative AI were related to using that AI system to recreate either visuals or voices, what have you, of deceased persons. And there's been some uses of this, not just with AI, but also with like computer graphics and computer generated graphics and things like that. It's not just been like an AI argument, but it kind of resurfaced with generative AI. There's also a very loud noise outside. I hope you can't hear it. I have no idea what it is. So an argument with that was that it doesn't allow for people to like mentally sort of move on, and it can almost, in a way, having that computer generated iteration of a deceased loved one can almost make it worse at the end of the day, because you start to like, you know, like it's like you don't have the ability to move on from the death of a loved one, and that can almost make it worse in the end. I have no idea what that is outside, by the way. It's like a truck or a vacuum or something, but it's like outside. I don't know what that is. I don't think I want to know. I just hope it's not blocking my car. I gotta get out later. And it's like we're seeing that sort of thing though, with like the inability to move on and fully go through that process of grieving your loved one here. Rubuska, it happened to Rubuska. Then she was distracted by doing it for the others, and now the others are kind of not totally prepared. Like, they were sort of moving on from the deaths of their loved ones, but now they're sort of falling back and unable to do so because they have the shadow version. And at first it was like, oh, I just want to talk to them again one more time. But now it almost seems like, well, if you have that one more time, what's stopping you from having them forever? You know? And it's like, now that burden's going to be on Rubuska to let them have the shadows forever. And obviously that doesn't happen because she's on the train now, but damn, you know? Shadow Milena says, "Everything was dark. It was so strange. I feel heavy and light, like I was here and gone, but now I'm inside the shadows. I wish I could hold you again." The grieving mother says, "Why not? I want to hold you tight again." She stretches out her arms, sharing a hollow embrace with the shadow of her child. Milena says, "This feels so nice." And the grieving mother feels the same. I'm curious if they'll be able to, once they have this like final iteration of their loved ones, I'm curious if they'll be able to like do that step of moving on. Because the idea of moving on from the death of a loved one is a very harsh thing to consider and think of, but at the end of the day, that is part of the grieving and mourning process, to have that step of like moving on and living your own life past the end of your loved one's life. You know, like that is a crucial step in being able to like accept that and move on with your life. And at the end of the day, it's what that loved one would want for you, you know? They would want you to continue to live your life past the end of theirs. And I feel like this is starting to mess with that timeline, because it was when Rubuska was doing it for herself, it wasn't great. But now that we have more people doing it, and Rubuska was a little bit more prepared for it as well, because she knew she could do that. These people didn't know, and it just got thrown on them. So like they're taking sort of steps backwards in their process of mourning. And it's just, this isn't gonna end well. It really is that same argument you see with like computer generations of deceased loved ones. It's the same argument, just at different points in time. History is a circle. The mourning father is then calling out for his son, and we have Shadow Penka says, "Did you bring food for Tervel? He keeps howling. I couldn't sleep. I don't know who Travell is, by the way. Oh, it's a dog. Oh, okay, I thought there was a dog with one of the shadows. Okay, the shadow of a shepherd dog, and you can even see the dog. But the shadow of a shepherd dog happily circles beside the boy. The father says, Penka, Travell is still with you. So loyal. Penka says, of course. He was always right beside me. The father says, you look well. You look intact. I'm so glad. Because this was also a note from the last one. The mourning father did say that when his son passed on, it wasn't even in one piece, which is so dark. But in the afterlife, he did recombine his pieces, if you will. Okay, I'm thinking that the noises outside are gardening. I hear a weed whacker. I hope it doesn't pick up on microphone, because that would be really annoying. I don't know why they're whacking weeds at 4 o'clock on New Year's Eve, but so be it, I guess. The mourning father says, I couldn't find your right hand. Oh boy, I hope you won't be angry with me. Penka says, how could I? I'm with Travell here. We're safe and we both miss you. Oh my god, I'm gonna start crying again. We don't got time for that. The man breaks down, sobbing. Yeah, okay. The orphaned child speaks to her mother, asks her to come back. Again, see, that's like not great for the grieving process. And the shadow mother says, I will always be here for you. Don't cry. The boy calls out for his grandfather. The boy's name is Jordan, by the way. We have a name for him now. And grandpa says, how's our land? Oh, let the rain fall steadily this year. These old bones of mine won't be hauling water anymore. Don't cry, child. I don't need to eat or drink now. Much easier that way. And orphan child number 2, aka Jordan, says you're so silly. In the graveyard, shadows stand tall. Through the girl's mouth in the tree, the dead once again commune with the living. Rubuska's face is pale, her forehead covered in fine sweat. Even near collapse, she still pushes herself to maintain the shadow. Yeah, see, this was another thing I was worried about, is that Rubuska is going to overwork herself through the arcane skill thing and letting all these people talk to their loved ones all at once, which was probably a bad idea to do all at once. I'm curious why they didn't do it in shifts. Maybe give everyone one night with their loved one and then say, all right, peace out. Have a good life. I think that would have been much more manageable than doing like 5 minutes for everyone at once, you know? Rubuska's mother, Shadow Mother, says, my darling, you've awakened so many souls. Her father says, newborn vampires. I doubt they ever truly knew a vampire before, or imagined they'd become one themselves. Kolio wants to play with the dog. Understandable, that is a child. Rubuska says, you'll never be alone again. And her father says, far from it. This place is livelier than ever. Even the balls at Castle Argus would pale in comparison. Argus mentioned. I'm kidding, I know it's spelled differently. Rubuska's mother says, I think it's our duty to take responsibility, to guide them, to care for them. After all, our lives are eternal, and their path has only just begun. So they're also considering the shadows, like the shadows being souls of vampires, so essentially, it's almost like Rubuska turned these souls into vampires in a way, but also she's a vampire. The vampire rules are very weird and twisted right now, but also I think that's because they're not actually vampires, they're arcanists, but reverse 1999 lore early on in the game, I believe, says that creatures throughout history called vampires or like whatever they may be, witches as well, were actually just arcanists, surprise. So they were not a vampire, they're an arcanist. So I feel like that's also kind of messing with things. And like the vampire thing was just how Rubuska's mother explained arcanists to Rubuska. Oh my god, that's so loud out there. What are you doing? It's New Year's Eve. Go get a drink or something. Don't do that. Drink responsibly. But what are you doing? Anyways, Rubuska says we must stay close together, no matter whether we walk in light or in shadow. She sits in the tree. It's so loud outside, watching the shadows as they stir the hearts of survivors, giving them courage and hope to carry on. That's a gunshot until a shot rips through the night. Awesome. You can't let these people have 5 minutes with the souls of their loved ones. You have to... Again, I'll repeat it. I've said it this whole time. Whatever excuse you decide to come up with for whatever the soldiers here are doing is not valid. You guys suck. You're horrible people. Just following orders is not a reason or an excuse. The garrison officer says, what are you doing here? Haven't you done enough, sir? The shadows scatter with the sound, dissolving into the night. Yeah, because they know who killed them. The living jolt in panic as if being ripped from a dream. That's one way to get through the mourning process, I guess. Smack back into reality. Which sometimes you do need that. But in this case scenario, not from him. Like sometimes you do just need to kind of like rip the band-aid off in that situation. But I don't like him. I don't like the garrison officer. I think he should be the one rotting. So Let me get my clear drops, and we move on to stage 6, The Night It Burned. Oh god, awesome. That title scares me. I don't think we have a mini game in this one, so we move back to the train. Yes. And so Rubuska says, the great vampire Rubuska began gathering more companions. Together they resisted the darkness, resisted eternal slumber. They were close to victory, of course. Their trials would go far beyond this. That's what I was talking about with like the exaggeration of the story. Rubuska's telling a story at the end of the day. So she's not an unreliable narrator, I said this last time, but she's a child telling a story. So there's a little bit of unreliableness there, but I think generally this is pretty true to what happened at this point. I had some theories before with like the vampire stuff and everything, but I think this is actually pretty true to life for her actual backstory. Back with the garrison officer, here's what you missed. He asks, what are you all doing here? Did you forget the curfew? There's a curfew. Of course there's a curfew. Civilians are not allowed out at night. The garrison soldier says, hands up. Any reason you can come up with is not a good one. I'm gonna keep saying it. Cold muzzles of rifles are raised, aimed at the unarmed civilians. Garrison soldier number 2 finally makes an appearance. So nice of you to finally show up, you coward. Says, step forward one at a time, no running, keep still. The soldiers raise their lights, checking the gathered people for any hint of rebellion. Literally, they're not rebelling, they're literally just grieving their loved ones together. The loved ones you killed. Like, I'm sorry, you're a bunch of freaks. You are freaks with no heart. The garrison officer says, suspicious. For what? They're grieving their... Get their asses, Rubuska, get their asses. Before they can approach, a sharp note cuts through the air as a shadow sweeps past them. The garrison officer gasps. And of course, the first thing he thinks is to shoot. Rubuska yells at them to run. Her words burst out from her perch on the tree. The mourners freeze for a moment, stunned by the weight of the moment, again with a repeat of words, until at last they break into a desperate run, scattering, ignoring the rifles pointed their way. Someone, I think, just shot at our daughter. Awesome, garrison officer says in the tree. Aim there. Gunfire erupts, but the black shadows throw off their aim. Bullets fly off harmlessly into the sky. Soldier number 1 says, I can't see a thing. I'm gonna give them Weasley little voices because I can. Soldier number 2 says, don't let them get away. I'm giving them stupid voices because I don't like them. I can do that, it's my video. The soldiers chase after shadows as they dart in every direction, giving the civilians precious time to escape. The garrison officer says, damn it. Soldier number 1 says, I think these must be the bodies of their families. Yeah. Soldier 2 says, they're rotten. Disgusting. Yeah, I hope you throw up. I hope you're in pain. The officer says, they've just been here watching them. Yeah, they're grieving because of you. The graveyard reeks of rotten death. Whose fault is that? The soldiers roughly prod at the corpses with their boots, and the officer says to burn them. I'm assuming if you burn them, you can no longer call on their shadows. The officer says, burn them all. The night it burned. See, I thought the night it burned being the name of this section was in reference to the night their family members passed, the night that like invasion thing happened. But no, they burned the cemetery as well. That feels like a war crime, right? I don't know if it is, but it feels like it. Okay, the decayed bodies are piled together. Fire catches on cloth first, then hair, then skin. Because a lot of times the thing with being classified as a war crime is if it is harmful to someone who is defenseless, you know, like that, like someone who literally cannot put up a fight anymore and you try to like continuously harm them. I'm pretty sure that's constituted as a war crime. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that's the rule there. So this feels like a war crime. They're literally already dead. Like, right? It feels bad. I'm not entirely sure, so don't quote me on anything, but it feels wrong. Flames roar high, smoke billows up until it swallows the pale moon. The graveyard glows blood red. The officer laughs and says, wait for them to return. We'll stage a lovely reunion. Yeah, this feels like a war crime. These people are now defenseless, and you're putting them through psychological torture now, and seeing their loved ones burn. God. The grieving mother is returned, looking for her daughter. She says, my child, I'm sorry. The orphaned girl cries for her mother. The mourning father says a pack of devils will burn in hell. Which they will. They do deserve to burn in hell. Anyone who does this sort of thing, you will burn in hell. The orphaned boy, who I think his name was Jordan, says, Grandpa, the fire is burning again. Again, see that he even mentions that night when they passed. Just like when they burned our home. Now they've burned you and Sis too. Everything's gone. The air fills with grief, hatred, and pain. Rubuska retreats into the forest as the fire devours what is left of her family. The the rising flames turning the graveyard into a hellish scene. Again, I do think the band-aid needed to be ripped off in the continuous communication with the shadows of their loved ones and like the souls of their loved ones. I do think that their souls deserve to move on, as well as I think the mourners, if you will, also deserved to move on with their lives and like, you know, but this was not the way to do it. Rubuska retreats into the forest, hellish scene. Yeah, okay, we didn't miss anything. Rubuska says you can't just burn away the souls of vampires. No. Yeah, this was a voiced line, but she does say no fire ever could. She affirms those words with complete conviction. And again, I don't know what's going on outside again. They're being really loud. Again, it is literally 4 o'clock on New Year's Eve. What are you doing? Rubuska says they don't need their bodies. Nothing can destroy them completely. Okay, so the souls don't need the bodies to still be there. I'm not entirely sure with that. Oh my god, it's so loud! Rubuska says because their souls have entered the shadows, and shadows can't be destroyed. Do I just pause? Do I just sit here until they decide to be done outside? What are they doing? It's literally... I'm losing my mind a little bit. I'm gonna take a water break. This is why I usually don't record during the day, because there's also always some tomfoolery happening in the parking lot. All right, yeah, shadows can't be destroyed, so we don't need the bodies. All right, we have hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. I feel like we heard this quote before. Baby Rubuska says, in the light of the blood moon, they rise and stride under the veil of night. So I think this might have been something we heard earlier on from Shadow Rubuska. She says, freely they live without fear of death. Yeah, this was the quote from earlier. For through blood, they live forevermore. She lifts the flute to her lips, firelight dances across her face, and she plays a tune as it flickers. Black shadows rise. 1, 2, 3. They stand in silence, remaining beside their loved ones in another form. Her song becomes a requiem, mourning the perished in their homeland left in ruins. God, these people suck! Not the mourners, obviously, the soldiers suck, but God! It really makes you think, like, how did these... Because this is all based on history. This is based on things that have happened in history. It's like, how do y'all sleep at night? How did y'all sleep at night? Because y'all dead now. But, like, how did y'all sleep at night? Truly. If I'm mean to someone, I think about it for, like, a week. And that's accidental. If I'm, like, accidentally mean to someone, I'm thinking about it for, like, a week to a month later. All right, stage 7 is called Resurrection in quotations, and that scares me. They're still really loud outside though, so I might have to cut my recording until they're done. I'm not sure. It sucks because I'm hungry and I need to finish uploading it. I have had a video uploading while I've been recording these, and I need to finish uploading it for tonight, so it goes up and all that jazz. And I have to sit here now while they're doing God knows what outside in the parking lot. I'm gonna get up for a second and see what's going on. Friends, it is an industrial ass leaf blower in the parking lot. There's not that many leaves in the parking lot. I don't know why they're doing this. We're just gonna really, really hope that you can't hear it pick up on OBS. Because it's not coming up on the audio meter in my OBS, but sometimes it'll be like ambient in the background. You can still hear it. That's happened before in other videos, so I'm just hoping it's not, because I don't have time for this right now. Anyways, the resurrection, but it's in quotation marks. Are you scared? I'm scared. So we're back in the house. Rubuska's home. I'm assuming this might be some sort of flashback because the house did burn down. So Rubuska asks, what's his name? And oh, maybe it didn't burn down because it looks like we might be here. Oh, the mourning woman asks Victor. His name was Victor. So she must be doing this for various people, like the survivors now, letting them speak with their loved ones, almost kind of like a medium in a way, similar to necrologist. Again, I think I brought up necrologist earlier on, but I would love to see them interact because this is similar to what necrologist does with the Tombstone Museum. The woman says he loved yogurt, the sour kind with no sugar. I used to find him sleeping in the fields just after harvest. This was his hat. He never left home without it. Her trembling hands clutch a felt hat charred at the brim. God, the little details. You can't really bring him back, can you? The girl raises the flute to her lips and breathes a short note. A small shadow rises slowly, wearing a hat. Oh, the mourning woman calls to her, I think it's probably her husband. Oh no, her kid. It's her child. Oh my God. That's even worse. It is so interesting that this seems like probably what Rubuska could have picked this up as like a job after all of this, but I'm assuming she does leave at this life at some point because she ends up on the train. The girl who calls herself a vampire travels her town, reviving the dead with her arcane skill. That's the resurrection, okay? With so many lives lost to this war, people cling to the hope she brings desperately. Yet, in a world so choked with death, her resurrections seem like a fairy tale. A widowed elder says this was her keepsake. An orphaned child says, is she still okay today, asking about her mom. Oh, this is the same orphaned girl from before, asks about her mom. The grieving mother brings Rubuska some food, and she says, my Milena can't eat anymore, so at least you should. It would make her so happy to know you're fed. God, that line particularly almost took me out. Oh my god. Or the orphan boy, Jordan, says, do you need some buttons or hair clips? I found these. Take them. I even found oranges. Grandpa used to love oranges. The mourning father says, is this the red potion you wanted? I found it. Take it. Penka and Tervel must be driving you mad. They never settle down. When Penka was little, yeah, her arms fill with offerings, and Rubuska stands there at a loss. People scour the ruins for food, medicine, scraps of their former life, all to pay tribute to the little vampire. Yeah, because Rubuska kind of gave them all they could have wanted, that last moment with their loved ones. And it's good to see that no one's like lingering on it too much, because that is also not great. But that last sort of like moment with their loved ones, they can't really pay her for it, but they want to thank her in some way, because that's like all they could have wanted. Some plead, some give thanks. Her mind stirs with familiar voices. Now, without even calling on her shadows, she can hear her family's voices. Rubuska's mother says, take what you need, preserve your life. You've already brought so many souls together. You make us so proud, she says. This one being fully voiced is interesting. Rubuska's father says, these are tough times for vampires. I can only imagine how much more difficult it must be for humans. If only it were not this way. This war is terrible indeed. But though we vampires are strong, it is a shame that so much has been put on your shoulders, my dear. Kallio says, you've become a real vampire queen. Just like Arnold V, everyone looks up to you, right? Arnold V technically being, I believe, Rubuska's grandfather. The crowd fixes their desperate eyes on Rubuska, waiting for her to summon her shadows again, call forth the lost. Her claims of being a vampire are an afterthought. They care only that they can see their families again. Truth and legend mingle in their grief. Yeah, the truth and the legend bit, yeah. Rubuska says a vampire should never use her powers to bargain for favors. I can't say that. Your loved ones, like mine, already live inside the shadows. I give you my word, she says. I don't need these things. But they want to thank her, that's the thing. She's doing such a big task for them, and it's something only she can do by letting them speak with their loved ones one last time, and they want to thank her for that. Even if she doesn't want thanks, they want to thank her for that, because that, again, that is probably, in a situation like this, that's the one thing left that, like, it means so much to them. Her eyes fall on the paltry food they've come to offer her, trying to silence the protests of her aching stomach. Rubuska sighs and says, I just... The starving child cannot keep up her performance. She leaps into the crowd to grab the offered food. The grieving mother says, eat, Rubuska. You vampires can still eat human food, can't you? The father says, it doesn't matter. You can't keep starving yourself. You're still just a child. Again, you're still just a child. She's a child. She's still a baby. She whispers it, then hesitantly picks up a cold meat patty and takes a bite. Good for her. Yeah. She says, I haven't had meat in so long. She thanks them, and she takes the red potion and some food, enough to sustain her a little while longer. Looking through the glass vial, the world before her bleeds red, and her eyes are stained the same. She blinks once, twice, into a world turned crimson. So her eyes are red. That's how her eyes turn red in one way or another? Sure, whatever. Oh, the garrison officer says, who is this Rubuska? The one they claim can raise the dead. This must be why she ends up leaving. They probably run her out of town in one way or another. Soldier number 1 says, all we know so far is that she appears around grieving villagers. The captives won't say where she is, but this resurrection thing, they really believe it. Soldier number 2 says, why don't we just kill some of them then, to bait her out? Again, sick in the head. Soldier number 1 says, she's been clever so far, in those shadows. The officer says, we've lost our share of officers to the militia. Perhaps this Rubuska can bring them back, but they won't be able to fight. They're just going to be like the souls, like ghosts almost. The officer says we have to find her. Soldier number 1 says, we're ready, sir. I think someone needs to whack them upside the head. I'm not promoting violence. You know, haven't said this in a while, right? Violence is never the answer, but sometimes it's the question and the answer is yes. Listen, they started it. The officer grinds his boot into the dirt, raising his voice. He says, you had the right idea. If she shows up when people die, then we just need a few corpses. See, this is war crimes at this point. Killing people for the sake of killing people, that's a war crime. I'm like 99% sure just killing people for no reason is a war crime, actually. It's also murder. The officer says, bring them here. Oh, and Shadow Rubuska. Either Rubuska in the shadows, I'm not really sure. Anyways, she says that won't be necessary. A figure steps out from under the dark trees. Okay, it is just Rubuska. She says it's true, I can bring the dead back to life, but only a vampire can be reborn. So when they return, they'll return as vampires. Not really, it's more of a ghost. The officer says, I don't care what they turn into, as long as they can be of use. He signals his men with a glance. This must be why she leaves. Oh, a pistol lifts quietly, aimed at her small feet. Again, a child. You're doing this to a child. Also, the officer calling her little girl is just, that's weird, right? Jail would be too nice for you people. He says, if you give us what we want, then we will reward you. We already killed her family. What are you going to reward her with? Rubuska asks, what reward? And the officer says, whatever you want. She wants her family back. You freak? Rubuska says, I want... Her words cut off, as if sinking into a greedy kind of thought. Ah, a bullet bursts from the barrel, flaring in the dark night. Really? Wait, the shot is true. The figure beneath the tree drops with a groan of pain. Okay, so it wasn't Rubuska that got hit. It was one of the guys. Awesome. So they wanted to play Rubuska in order to get her to revive their troops, and Rubuska played them right back. I can't even be mad. Hey, they started it. If they didn't want to get involved in this, they should have just left. The officers should have just left, you know? Like, if you don't want to be called a freak, don't do something that'll get you called a freak, you know? Boots scrape hard against the ground. The soldiers rush in, but all they find is a fading shadow. So she can use the shadows to, like, pop in and out, too, it seems like. Or that was Shadow Rubuska the whole time, and they just didn't know. Rubuska says, a vampiric resurrection can only be done on a bright night. Her voice changes direction, echoing from far away. Oh, she's messing with them now. Deserved. They deserve to be messed with. They deserve a lot more than that, but... Rubuska says, I will wait for you here on the next full moon. She says, don't forget to bring the reward with you. What was the reward? Question. I guess we're about to find out. It's been 50 minutes, by the way, and it feels like it's been maybe like 4. That's how you know the story's good. When it just flies by. We go on to stage 8, another minigame stage, By Blood I Swear. Curious what the reward is, that being the title. But it makes sense that it would be a minigame stage because Rubuska's gonna revive someone, probably the soldiers, maybe. The full moon rises as a troop of soldiers march into the cemetery. The officer says, keep your nerves steady. This vampire may try to trick us. I hope she does. That's what you deserve. I have no remorse for these guys. They lost all ability. They lost their ability for me to have remorse towards them a long time ago. The officer says, just remember, those shadows of hers have no flesh to them. They can't hurt you. Literally, the shadows aren't real. They can't hurt you. They literally are having to, like, talk themselves up. They're scared. The officer says, she's just a sly little brat. Now we put an end to this. Do they want to take her out too? Because that's messed up. Again, jail, all of you. He hisses out his orders. All across the town, rumors spread of the dead rising in the cemetery, reaching even the soldiers of the garrison. Now bathed under the stark moonlight, the place is especially eerie and cold. His words do little to calm his soldiers' nerves. The officer says, we catch her tonight. If we can't take her alive, then we put her down. This is a child you're talking about, mind you. You're afraid of a child? His face twists, his voice a snarl through gritted teeth. A single flute note splits the silence. Soldier number 1 says, she's here! The officer says, don't panic, find her. God, the fact that they're, like, afraid of her actually does bring me joy to a certain degree. Soldier number 2 starts screaming, and as the sound of the flute grows closer, the soldiers scramble to find its source, only to find something far more terrifying. Is she gonna bring back nightmare creatures? Shadows surge up like giants towering over the cemetery. They close in, looming over the soldiers below. They grow until the cemetery is consumed by darkness. I mean, if she's doing this so they can't hurt her, but she can do what they want, that's really smart, actually. Which it does seem like, with all of this, Rubuska had to grow up very quickly. The officer says, don't shoot. His voice is drowned out by the music and the panicked murmurs of his soldiers. These men have done terrible things and they're afraid of the dark? Really? The dark figures looming above them suddenly crash down, forming into different shapes, covering every surface. The graveyard becomes a pitch black hell. Also, it changed. A hell in which all their worst nightmares are magnified. You know, deserved. they deserve to be traumatized a little bit. They've done enough to the other people. The thing with about the soldiers is that yes, after the war ends, they will be very traumatized, but they also, oh, if you go the wrong way, it turns red. We learned something today. Down here. There we go. So you don't have to reset the whole thing, which is nice. So then this is C and D. They're combined. Nope. Nope. Wrong. Nope. Up here. This one. Why was C and D so much easier than A and B? What's up with that? Soldier number 1 is screaming. Deserved. I think I started saying this. It makes the thing with these soldiers is that after they get out of the war, they are going to be traumatized. They are going to be just as traumatized as every other soldier, as the people. And it's just like, there are no winners in war. Yeah, there are no winners in war. But also, these people are going to be traumatized because they traumatized other people. And again, there is the phrase of just following orders, but that's not an excuse for traumatizing people. And a lot of people probably realized that after they got out as well. It's just there are no winners in war at the end of the day. Anyway, Soldier 2 is screaming about demons. Gunfire cracks, bullets shred into the dark, but find no purchase. And I think soldiers getting this afraid of literal just getting afraid of the dark. Rubuska says you'll never become a vampire though, but they're literally just afraid of the dark right now. And I think that plays a lot into showing that the soldiers as well are terrified for their lives and things like that, but they're not helping their own case at all. Two things can be true. These soldiers can have terrible, terrible, rotten hearts, but also be traumatized. Like, two things can be true. They can suck and also be suffering themselves. And that suffering, I think, also does play into the fact that they suck. Like, that's causing them to be horrible people. The officer keens his ears, trying to find the source of the voice. He fumbles for his pistol, finds his hand trembling too much to aim it. Rubuska says you'll only die in terror. She's freaking them out now. I will read it when she's done. This part is almost entirely voiced, though. She's really coming for them, though. She says the moonlight will burn your skin, the darkness will devour your soul, and even in death, you'll never find peace. You'll be cursed, tormented forever by the endless longing to be what you never can. I mean, she's kind of coming for their asses. Truly get their ass. She says, I swear it. The officer gasps again. He empties his pistol in a blind panic. They're really terrified. Grown-ass man, by the way. Listen, it's all right to make fun of people if they're horrible people in a fictional video game. It's all right to make fun of them in that scenario. I've said this before. Don't make fun of people, but if they're a bad person in a video game, you can make fun of them. That's okay. I give you permission. But silence. The shadows stand unmoved among the graves. Soldier number 1 is hyperventilating, and soldier number 2 says, what the hell? They thought they had heard wailing cries. Now, only silence. There is still a sound though. The soldiers pant, guns still raised, ears straining, making them listen to the cries of the dead. Only the wind answers. Yeah, that would be kind of terrifying. And we're back on the train. Rubuska says, and so the great vampire Rubuska was finally reunited with her family, and they had more companions. Together, they guarded their land so that no one could trespass there again. It's voiced again, but I am going to read it. She says, once peace had returned to her hometown, Rubuska sensed a greater calling, so she set out once more, and that must be how she ends up on the train. Ima says, wow. Ima sits beside her, eyes sparkling in awe at the tale of Rubuska the First. She says, that was incredible. Clever, brave, and unyielding. Truly a remarkable vampire. She praises her sincerely, warm words stacking one after another, until the storyteller's cheeks flush red. Rubuska says, well, you're not wrong. That's the end of Rubuska the First's story. As for the next time, what should I write about next time? She puffs her cheeks and balances the quill under her nose, frowning in thought. And I do want to make one quick note here. There was quite a few lines throughout the story where certain sections and words would be repeated, and that's usually frowned upon in writing. And I know it's a video game, not a book or whatever, but Reverse 1999 is a visual novel in essence, and it's very much written like a book. So, like, I find I've been catching up with Reverse 1999 a lot of the main story by putting it on my second monitor because I find it very easy to just, like, listen to it as if it's an audiobook sort of thing, because it's written very much like a book. You know, it's like, it feels like translated fiction because that's exactly what it is. Reverse 1999 is translated fiction. But there were a lot of sections that would repeat a lot, and the words would repeat, sentence structures would repeat, and generally in literature and books that's frowned upon because it just shows a level of writing that is not very matured, if you will. But Rubuska's line here, next time, what should I write about next time? The repetition there actually makes those sections, and I don't know if this was done purposely, I might be reading into it too much, might be corn plating, but if this was the reason why it's written like that, why there's repetition in certain sections and words and things, because that's how Rubuska talks, that is such a great detail, because she's telling the story. So that is such a good detail. And I don't know if I'm like reading too much into it, but I hope that's what was done there, because I really, that's clever. That's really good, actually. But Rubuska puffs her cheeks and balances the quill under her nose, frowning in thought. Ima says, it's obvious. Now you must tell them what happens to Rubuska the First next. Oh, well, the stories of the train, if you will. The midnight whistle. So this happens before the events of the midnight whistle, and then we get to that. Rubuska says, huh? Next? Ima says her adventures are still going on, are they not? So she will soon have all kinds of new adventures. She smiles softly, her voice filled with warmth and encouragement. Yeah, Ima knows that this is Rubuska's actual story, you know? I think she can tell. Rubuska says, huh, you're right. It's time for a new story. Oh, Ima! She pushes the written letter toward her, her tone pleading and serious. Rubuska says, this letter, will you help me make it better? You've already taught me a lot. I fixed all those spelling mistakes I made before. How did I do this time? Is it any better? Oh, again, looking at how it's written with the repetition, that again makes sense, is that she was never taught how to read or write. Ima taught her. Or I would assume Corvus probably had something to do with it as well. She gazes at her friend with eager anticipation, but Ima simply slides the paper back. She says, I don't think it needs any edits. Oh, this was voiced, but I am gonna read it. She says, this is your story, the story of Rubuska the vampire. You should keep it just the way it is, she says. Oh. Okay, yeah, her eyes are red, so that her eyes did turn red at some point. So, so wholesome in a weird way. Her lips curl into a smile, so sweet it warms them both to the core. Rubuska says, but maybe you can look for any spelling mistakes. I'll check it over one more time. A knock comes at the door. It's Corvus.
Come in, please.
Ima says, come in. And a tall and slender figure steps into their cozy room. It's Corvus! This was a voiced line, but Corvus does say, isn't it a little late for you to be up? Ima says, conductress, we're writing letters. We're going to drop them in the post box tomorrow at the station. Corvus says, you should both be asleep. I see my training hasn't quite set in, has it, Rubuska? She doesn't say anything. She presses herself flat against the desk, terrified another special training session is about to begin. Corvus says, relax. You think me a cold-hearted taskmaster, don't you? She pulls out 2 pieces of knitwork in different colors. Wait, is it Christmas gift? Oh, yes, it's Christmas gift. I went this whole time without fully crying, and this might send me over the edge. The Christmas gifts. Oh my god. Okay. Corvus says, I'm glad you're still up. I wanted to give both of my best stewardesses a special Christmas gift. Guys, I fear we may have to pull for Corvus off of how she's characterized in Rubuska's story character quest. Oh my god. Okay. Ima says, oh. The seasoned stewardess pounces on the gift. The white shawl belongs to Ima. The red to the newly promoted stewardess, Rubuska. Oh, because she was in training. Oh my god, yeah. Ima says, here, Rubuska. This one's yours, but she did also call her Ruby, which is really cute. I'm gonna assume that's what she's wearing here, but maybe also it's what she wears. I don't know what her insight garment looks like, but I would assume maybe it shows up there. Rubuska says, mine? Conductress, all this time you were knitting this for... Yeah, because the red ball of yarn Rubuska had to put on her head. She recalls how she grumbled beneath that red yarn ball balanced on her head the whole time she was making a gift for Rubuska. Corvus says, you should reread the section on employee benefits, Rubuska. She says, thank you, conductress. Oh. She unfolds the red fabric, but rather than a shawl, she finds it drapes much lower, like a crimson cape. It may not be as grand as a true vampiric cloak, but it is warm and soft.
Merry Christmas.
Oh. Corvus says Merry Christmas, and it was voiced. I might try to keep that in. Ima says Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And Rubuska says Merry Christmas. Oh, this was so cute. She hugs the knitted red cloak tightly to her chest. She says, I'll never hang upside down in the carriage again. Cross my heart, she says. Cute. Oh, that was so sad, and I got so heated over the soldiers, but the ending was so wholesome and sweet. Oh my god, I'm crying. amazing. Oh my god. I don't think we needed the mini game though. I will say that. I feel like the mini game was just like there. This one had a nice amount of like length to it as well, this character story. Sometimes I'll play through the character story and the first half will be like so long and the second half will be like so very short. But this, we've almost been recording the same amount of time as the last video. So good amount of length. Let's go war room, see if I can't get any more clear drops out of this. And I don't know what I'm gonna do if I don't get Rubuska in the next like 5 minutes, because I do have to get going soon. And I have to work on getting a video up as well. I might throw this on the second monitor while I work on getting a video up and to do dailies, because I also have some cells. I have some candies, not cells. I have some candies expiring in a hot minute here. So I might do dailies. It's not what I wanted. I did not want crew. Summons. I think I can get 2 pulls. I have 200 clear drops and 125 crystals. I might be able to get enough out of the, like 2 pulls out of this. We're at like 46, I think. So this brings us to 47. Zima. Okay, Zima. Wrong white-haired character. I would need 160 crystal drops. Damn it, I can't do another pull. All right, I'm gonna do my dailies off screen to try and get the last couple of pulls, but if I end up having to do this while I'm out, I did put reverse on my phone. I still haven't logged in on it, but I might be logging in tonight. We might have reached that point. Okay, let's bring up the Midnight Whistle bit. If you're curious if I end up getting Rubuska, watch the kit review for Corvus, because I'll probably lament about it there. My thing is that if I don't get, the thing though is I need Rubuska for endgame, but also if I don't do endgame for a minute, I'll be okay. I don't know what to do, because I need Rubuska. All right, A Shadow's Weight. I really liked her character story though. I don't know if it's my absolute favorite, but it's definitely up there. Definitely up there for a favorite character story. I think I say that every single time, but it was a really good one. So that is going to be it for Rubuska's character story. If you like this video, make sure to give me a like down below, as well as subscribe for more, and hit the little notification bell to be notified when I upload new ones. As always, I hope everyone is having a super lovely day wherever you are in the world. Happy New Year once again, and I'll see you all in my next video where hopefully I will have Rubuska. But yeah, bye guys!